Hi everyone, it's Melissa, and today I am going to talk about the books that I read in October. So I participated in Victober for the first half of the month, and I read two Victorian novels for that. The first being Silas Marner by George Eliot. So I really enjoyed this. Overall, my general feelings towards this book are that it is very charming, and I loved how Eliot described the country setting, and it just felt very warm. I can see what people mean about George Eliot's writing style. She has kind of like a very roundabout way almost, like the turns of phrase, the kind of words she uses. I can see them being not very accessible. This book is quite readable, and so I think it was, in retrospect, a good place to start. But I can see how, in maybe more challenging books, you would really have to try hard or dig deep to kind of get through her writing. I enjoyed it in this book. It follows a miser who loses his fortune, has it stolen from him, and a toddler basically comes into his life and he adopts her, and it's that relationship, and it's really about him as a character and how he shifts his own perspective and how his life changes and how his whole view on life kind of changes. And so yeah, I just thought it was kind of charming, sweet. If you're really into plot, like the plot doesn't really happen until quite a ways through the book. But I think that if you are more into characters or you're more into setting, then you would really like this. The next book that I read for Victober was Lady Audley's Secret by Mary Elizabeth Braddon. This I really didn't enjoy, and I know it's a very popular sensation novel, and I don't think there was anything wrong with the writing, so I wouldn't discount reading any more Braddon. I think I might pick up another one of her novels. This story just didn't work for me. The story I thought was incredibly predictable, and it's a sensation novel, right? So it should feel a certain way, in my opinion. Now, granted, this is coming from someone who has only read one other sensation novel, so maybe I just don't understand the typical sensation novel, and maybe the one sensation novel I read isn't typical. So I read The Woman in White by Wilkie Collins last year, and that was just so twisty-turny. I described it as a soap opera, just very over the top, but in a very enjoyable way, and I didn't feel that with this. It didn't have quite enough oomph for a sensation novel for me. I didn't really feel that concerned over the well-being or safety of our characters. I never really felt like anyone was really in danger. And every single twist in this book I thought was incredibly obvious, and so it didn't even have that factor, so it just wasn't very fun in my opinion. But like I said, I think the writing was fine, and I'd probably pick up another Mary Elizabeth Braddon. But if you're looking for something with a lot of twists and turns that will like keep you guessing, I don't think this is it. So yeah, this one just wasn't for me, and I just need a little bit more punch to my sensation novels, and this one just felt really dull to me. So the last half of the month I devoted to reading spooky things, and the only novel I read for spooky season was Pet Sematary by Stephen King. So I have mixed feelings about this, but overall I highly enjoyed it. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. Up until the end, this was a 5-star book for me. So I am no stranger to Stephen King. I haven't read him in many years, but by and large, I like almost everything of his that I read. I really enjoy his writing style. He's very good at setting up characters and place, like not just setting, but more like a sense of place. And I felt that with this, where I immediately felt like I knew the town, I knew the characters, like I know this place. So I liked the characterization, that sense of place. I love his writing style. And by God, the tension in this. I was on the edge of my seat for like probably 350 out of these 400 pages, maybe even more, like just gripped. Well, maybe not that many because there is like a lot of setup, but once the plot kind of gets going, I was there. I can't talk too much about specifics because it's really easy to spoil this. What I will say is, okay, I'll say a couple things. First being, if you're not really familiar with Stephen King's writing, I feel like most people have a certain perception of what his books are like, and most oftentimes those perceptions are very, very wrong. So I think most people will look at this and think, oh, it's about like killer animals, zombie animals. Okay, I know what that book is. This is so not this book. And I knew that was going to be the case because I am familiar with Stephen King's writing. So yes, it's about a pet cemetery and the grounds beyond that cemetery, which have a mysterious, unexplained supernatural quality to them. I think most people, I don't think this is a spoiler to say, there is a dead pet cat that comes back from the dead after being buried beyond the pet cemetery. I think most people know that. But again, I think perception is that the horror in this novel is pets coming back from the dead and they're evil, or they have the taste for human flesh, or something along those lines. That's not what this book is at all. It's much less viscerally like horrific or violent in that way. It's much more psychologically horrific and much creepier. The build up lasts forever. Like I said, I was on the edge of my seat. I think what I loved most about this book and why it was 5 stars up until the end was how strong the tension and suspense and build up was. Without spoilers, there is a character in here who has a decision to make, and based on what choice is made, there's going to be fallout, and you know this as the reader. And I was just reading this on pins and needles about what choice this character was going to make, and knowing that it wasn't going to end well, obviously. But just the build up to that was so good. Was so good. I think King did not stick the landing. The ending of this book was kind of jarring, and not in a good way. Now, I will stop to say, I realize Stephen King is like super famous, super successful, best-selling author. So far be it from me to give notes to Stephen King, and I don't think I'm some genius writer or storyteller by any stretch of the imagination, but I have an ending in my head that I feel really confident is so much better than this ending. Much more horrific, scarier, more subtle. Yeah, I just feel like most of this book was psychologically terrifying, and at the end, the resolution was too easy, and it relied more on physical violent horror than it did the psychological horror that I think could have been pulled off at the end. I know that's very vague. If you've read Pet Sematary and you want to have a spoilery chat in the comments, I would love to do that to explain my thoughts more fully as to what I mean. But yeah, so it's 4 stars. I really enjoyed it, but I just think the ending just like didn't do it for me at all. I would still recommend this because I do think the rest of it is so good. The last thing I read, I'm not going to talk about much because I have a whole vlog that I will link somewhere. But I read The Legend of Sleepy Hollow by Washington Irving. I keep wanting to call him John Irving, who's a completely different writer. Washington Irving. This is a short story. I read this as part of my pop culture osmosis series, where I try to predict what will happen in really famous stories that I think I know, but probably don't really know. Overall, just enough creepiness, but the story was actually a lot more charming than I thought it was going to be. I liked the character of Ichabod Crane, and then I didn't like him, and then I liked him again. I really liked the character, and I thought the character was kind of this, a fun vehicle for the story to take place. So yeah, charming, creepy in the right spots. I thought it had a really interesting ending. Overall, enjoyed it and would recommend that as well. So those are the things that I read for October. I'm still in the middle of The Bloody Chamber by Angela Carter, which is the like horror fairy tale short story collection. If you've read any of these books, please let me know, and I'd love to have a chat about them. As always, thank you so much for watching, and we'll chat soon. Take care. Bye.